Thank you. The killing of Candace Bob on Sunday evening has shocked the city. The tragedy of a pregnant woman shot to death while medical staff were fighting to save the life of her unborn child has reminded us of the threats we face. We have seen this year in Toronto very significant increases in homicide and other gun-related crimes. We are not alone. The Washington Post reported 3 days ago that the first months of 2016 have seen increases in homicides in more than 24 cities. We cannot take comfort in that. I'm regularly asked for what I believe the cause of this is. Many commentators have claimed they know why they have seen such an increase in Toronto and across North America. What I know with absolute certainty is that there's no simple solution to complicated problems. What we must do is channel all our efforts in productive directions. We are using all the resources at our disposal. We track and analyze crime around the clock. We deploy our people where they are needed the most. We use all the investigative techniques we have developed to identify, investigate, and put before the courts those who have made a conscious decision to embrace a life of violence. Many people over the last few days have stated that something must be done. That is not enough. We must translate that genuine anger and concern into tangible action that increases the ability of our City of Toronto to beat those who commit to cause violence. We know we have work to do, and we will to rebuild our public confidence. We are working extremely hard and will continue to do so to make sure every police officer receives the best training and support to deal with the challenges they encounter every day. We are working hard to ensure that our contacts with the people that we come in contact with are marked with respect and professionalism. There are still complicated issues that divide us. I'm committed without reservation to work as hard as I can to resolve those issues. But the only way that we can be successful is if we all contribute in any way that we can to fight against the violence in our communities. Communities must realize that united, they have enormous power, power that can be mobilized. Politicians, police, community leaders, regular citizens all have a part to play. In every community in this city, there are people who know who is committed to a life of violence. That information is the most precious resource we have, the most potent weapon in this fight. But we must make much better use of it. Those who have that information need to come forward, anonymously or otherwise, to help everyone. Public outrage will not be enough. Translated into tangible action with all parts of the community working together, we can and will make that positive difference. I'll now take some questions.
There's still some complicated issues, but numbers now are a lot different than they were a couple of years ago. So are there new issues that you guys are facing in the force? And if not, then what are these complicated issues that have been going on for years?
Well, there are a lot of various complicated issues. There's a public trust factor that we're trying to fix to the best of our possibilities. The numbers, when you look at the numbers, this year to date with homicides, we have 29, compared to last year, which is 15. But the year before that, in 2014, we were at 20. And the year before that, we were at 22. So really, there's between 2013 and now, there's a 27% increase. Having said that, though, we still have to work together so that we can resolve these homicides as best as possible, especially the ones that are out in public spaces. Those are the ones that aren't committed in vacuums, and we know that people can assist us with those. And so a lot of times people think that they have information that doesn't have value, and yet it has tremendous value.
Chief, could you comment on the Toronto Police Association advertisement that was taken out today? And he's been doing the media rounds, talking about carnage in the streets of Toronto, unprecedented violence. Can you comment both on the tactic of what some are calling the tactic of fear, and whether you believe that Toronto is a safe city?
Toronto is the safest urban city in North America. You just have to look at the numbers, and the numbers will be glaring to convince you that Toronto is the safest city. Will I use fear as a tactic? No, I will not. But listen, at the end of the day, there's a lot of work to do. And it's not just the police alone. We have to work with the communities and the members of the communities to help us to solve these cases. Because at the end of the day, the rhetoric is one thing, but what solves cases is evidence. And so we need to gather evidence as best as we can working with the community.
If I could just follow up on that, though, we're hearing the statistic of the increase in murders, the increase in violent crime. You've got Michael McCormick speaking about the fact that there's this 200% increase. Are those valid numbers to reflect crime in the City of Toronto based on 5 or 10 years?
Well, as I've said, the numbers are the numbers right now, and we're putting our officers in the right places at the right times as best as we possibly can. When you look at the numbers, and as I stated earlier, I spoke and I compared the numbers now to 2-3 years ago, and they're not that far off. They're not that far off, but still, that's not what I'm happy about when I'm looking at.
Actually angrier about this. And this, I mean, the numbers 2 years ago are not the issue. We've got 30 homicides because one is about to be a homicide. It's double over last year. The shootings are double. I know where you're going with it. I understand the politics. And as a commentator that you mentioned in here, I don't know if we're the problem as much as these gangsters out there. That's where the outrage is. What are you telling us here today? What can we do to help solve this?
Well, a couple of things that you can do. Number one, there is a concern because more people are carrying firearms. We've seized 250 firearms this year. Over 100 of them are handguns that we have obtained. And so what we need to put more resources in the communities where the firearms seem to be having a lot of gunplay. When you have the communities that are under-resourced, that don't have the right role models, that don't feel that life is fair to them, you need to invest in that. It's not just a matter of policing your way through these situations. We can arrest until the cows come home. That's not going to make communities better. That's only one factor of all the other pieces that need to be put in place. So,
what do you need, though? What do you need? Do you need more money for witness protection?
No. Right now, we're looking for more cooperation. What we're looking for is evidence at the end of the day. When people see things, either to call us or to contact Crime Stoppers so that we have an opportunity to bring whoever uses handguns or uses firearms to resolve an issue before the judicial system. And I can tell you, we have made a lot of arrests this year, Joe. So it's not the doom and gloom that you are using. We make a lot of arrests. The men and women work very, very hard out there. Are they doing an excellent job? Yeah, they are, which is why I say this is still a safer city. But is there more to be done? Absolutely.
On that issue, if I could just say, the chief.
What do we need, though, to be proactive? Because we're talking about people with information coming forward after crimes done, but what proactively can we do?
Well, the proactive piece, I will know that there are people that are out there that have information. They have information right now, and for whatever reason, they're not giving that information, either because they're too afraid or they're supporting the people that are carrying firearms out there. And what I'm saying is, let's turn the table around. Everybody within their communities has an understanding of who is or who may be carrying firearms, who is or who may be using firearms. Make that phone call. That phone call is what makes a difference between safe communities and communities that are not as safe right now.
We were told that the people that were in the vehicle with Candace, Rochelle, Bob were cooperating. So has that led anywhere in the investigation?
Well, that's one component of an investigation. You have to look at forensics. You have to look at if there's any video footage. You have to look at the canvassing to see whether or not people saw things. These shots were fired outside. So you can't just contain it to the people that were inside the vehicle. You have to contain it as an investigation as a whole. So what I'm saying is there is opportunity still, because there's no doubt in my mind that whoever committed this is talking. And whoever they're talking to, we want them to talk to us.
Have you made any progress in the investigation? Since yesterday we haven't heard an update.
The investigation is still ongoing. I haven't received much more of an update right now, other than the fact that they're appealing for anyone that has any information, because it's a very solvable case.
Are you going out to the community? I know you weren't there yesterday. Will you be going out there? Talk to the members out there?
Yeah, I will at some time. I'm not interested in the snapshots. I'm interested in the results right now. So I would rather evidence come into the investigation rather than me walk around taking pictures. So it's important that we work together, especially within the Jamestown community. And if anyone has any information, that they can at least forward that information towards us.
Do you have any suspect information?
People out there in the community yesterday are mentioning things like carding and aid communities. Is that something that you support, the carding coming back?
Well, I'm not going to get into that dialogue. And as I stated before, everyone seems to have the answers. But go right across North America. Look what's going on in North America. No one has the answers, or else we wouldn't have this problem right now. So it's a conglomerate of a lot of things that have caused this. So it's not just one, home run answer to answer the question. And it's going to take time, and it's going to take legitimacy for everybody to work together to help reduce crime.
Chief, we heard similar outrage just less than a year ago. There was a 14-year-old girl who was killed by a gun in that same neighborhood. We heard similar outrage. Stop the violence, put away the guns. People call the cops if you know where the guns are. And here we are again with another quote-unquote outrageous murder in that community. Like, how confident are you that that the community's outrage, that the city's outrage will actually translate into action in lowering gun crime and solving crimes.
Well, you know, we as a Toronto Police Service, our numbers are very good when it comes to solving crimes, and it's because we have good investigators, but we do have members of the community that continuously cooperate. But I'm glad you brought that up. That's one of the other pieces to the puzzle. You know, when it comes to the communities, the media is never there until they see chalked outline bodies. So why not go in there and look at what some of the positive role models are doing and tell those stories a little bit more instead of everyone's jumping on a bandwagon whenever there's something that's critical. And I think that that's something that needs to be balanced out right now, because what I hear from them is the only time that people are in there to help is when someone's getting shot or someone's getting killed.
What about frontline officers? Maybe there needs to be more frontline officers in the community outside of reporters.
Well, our frontline officers are in there, and I can show you the numbers that we are in there quite a bit, and we are doing a very good job within that neighborhood. It's a matter of working with the communities, which is what we're doing. It's not just going in to enforce, it's going in there to develop relationships, which we're doing.
Chief, if I can just ask you, on that issue of officers being in the community, Mr. McCormick says that your force is at an all-time low for morale, and that officers actually aren't doing proactive policing anymore because the climate of fear of the comments about systemic racism within the police force have made them scared to interact with the community. Can you respond to that and also respond to the...
Just ask one question at a time, because you keep asking 2 and 3. I can tell you that the men and women who join the Toronto Police Service are there to make a positive difference within the community, and they are working very hard to keep any part of the city safe at any given time that they're out there. So let's not create any inferences that the men and women are sitting on their hands. They're not. They're working hard. They're doing an effective job. They're making a positive difference in the communities on a day-to-day basis.
What do you say about the Police Association letter today?
You know, I read the letter and I didn't think much of it. My function, my role, my responsibility is to make sure that we do what it takes to make sure that the men and women are doing their best to keep the city safe.
We're hearing that a lot of this recent gun activity is from one gang in particular, and that it all relates back to the April 18th with the shooting, kidnapping in the elevator at Blue Jays Way. What can you tell us about that?
I'm not going to comment on that. Do I know that there's gunplay in that neighborhood? Yes. And do I know that I'd say about 50% of the gunplay is directly related to street gang activity? I can comment on that, but to elaborate any further, I can't.
Chief, has gun and gang intelligence been impacted since street checks were suspended initially and ultimately canceled?
Well, we're looking at whatever tools that we have available to us to solve the crimes, which is why we are solving the crimes. When it comes to are we handcuffed? No, we're not handcuffed. And if we were, we wouldn't be making the arrests that we're making. I wouldn't be here telling you that we've seized over 250 handguns this year. So we're actively fighting the fight. But, you know, like I said, we still have to work with the community. There still have to be other things to build community, not just the enforcement piece. And I think that that's something that we need to take a better look at.
Who are you looking for? One person, more than one person?
I don't know at this time.
Do you have an update on the baby's condition?
No, I don't.
Chief Saunders, you mentioned gang activity and how it relates. You said 50% of, can you just repeat what you said, 50% of?
In that Jamestown area, 50% of the shootings we know are gang related, street gang related.
And how will you comment about this one related to gangs? Can you say anything about it? Are police looking into gangs, drugs?
I can't at this time, but I can tell you that we detected this pattern, we saw this pattern, we put more resources in those particular areas, and when you look at the numbers, they clearly show that the month of March, it was down to 3 homicides, and other than this homicide that occurred, it was 0 up until then. So we are putting the resources in the right place. We are making those positive differences, but still, you know, we're in a city of 2.8 million people, and people are producing handguns.
Are you worried heading into the summer months?
No.
Why not?
Because I still think that this is the safest city in North America, and I believe the men and women are going to do their part to make sure that the city stays safe.
But even if a pregnant woman was sitting in a vehicle and got shot and killed, I mean, that's like the most dramatic we've seen in a while. A pregnant woman, her baby's clinging to life.
And your question?
there's no sense of nervousness, worry heading into the summer when we know that there's more guns and gangs out in the streets?
Well, we're going to do what we need to do to keep the city safe. It's something that we have always done, and we're going to work extra hard to make sure that the public feels safe. Whenever shots are fired in public spaces, we have concerns for that, and we respond, and we've responded very healthily so far. As I've indicated before, we look at patterns, we look at trends, and then we respond that way, and we've done a very good job so far.
You talked a little bit earlier about getting help from the community members of the public, and it being a little bit more difficult, that there being problems with trust. What do you think is causing that?
Well, there are probably many, many reasons, but I do know that it's going to take time and legitimacy through our actions that will help increase that trust factor. We are still getting information, which is why we're solving cases. But you know what? There's no such thing as getting too much information. So whatever we can do to keep the channels open to even get more information, that would be a good day in the city.
Chief, I didn't get that sense at all that there's a lack of trust for your men and women out in this community. I was there last year for the Senate Ross, and then obviously this tragedy this year. I didn't get that sense even last week when the young Cynthia Malapudi was shot. I get the opposite of that there is great respect for the men and women and the work they're doing, that kind of thing. And I wonder if, you know, whether we need to turn this, look at it a different way, in that the bad guys are people that these reporters are talking about, the gangs. We need to know more about who they are, where are these guns coming from, who's profiting from it, what is the trade, what is the product. And you know, I think everybody in this room has their theories of it, but we don't really know. Maybe that's what we need to do. What I'm asking you is a little bit more about what is causing this, what is the reason for it?
Well, I can't give a specific answer, but I can tell you that we know that there will be members in the community that will know other members that are carrying guns, for whatever the reason may be that they're carrying guns. That's the information that we need. That's one of the pieces that can allow us to be more proactive, so that if we have an understanding from the community who know who the criminal elements are, who know who are using firearms as a resort to answer questions.
Can you protect them?
Absolutely.
Because they don't think that, I don't think. I think they're not upset with you. I think they're more afraid of these gangsters. And as Karen said, you know, they'll kill you right in the back. Doesn't matter if you're pregnant.
Yeah, you know, fear and intimidation is a factor that is used within street gangs, and that is something that causes that cone of silence, but that's also what causes the violence to remain and increase, is when people don't say anything. So the more you talk, the more information you put out there, the better the opportunity for that community as a whole to be safe, and that does work.
Chief, you put more resources into 23 Division in the Jamestown community in the last few months because there's been more gun crime there. Can you just expand on what you guys know from the numbers and from intelligence in terms of what's been going on in that community in recent months?
Well, I can only be generic in saying that there was a noticeable increase of gunplay in that particular area, and as such, we sat down and utilized our intelligence tools and put them together to see exactly what we could do, and we're able to redeploy a lot of our assets in that area proactively and also from an enforcement capacity, and we were able to bring the numbers down.
Is it helping in this particular investigation, the Bob homicide?
You know, I haven't drilled down into that right now. That's something that I'd have to ask the investigators, and I don't get into the weeds of investigations.
But are you saying though that things were getting better since you put in the additional officers?
Well, yeah.
The numbers went up and then they went down.
We had things under control.
Chief, can I ask you about something? I think we're getting two different signals here. I've heard you, I've heard the head of homicide, I heard your robbery guy. They all come out and they say, we need people to talk, we need people to communicate, and they have been getting some communication. But at the same time, we're getting another message coming out of the province talking about you don't have to talk to the police. Your officers are going to have to walk up and say, you don't have to talk to us anymore, you can walk away. And in these communities like this is exactly where you're going to see people say, I don't have to talk to you, get out of here. How is that going to help us deal with this violence? With the province more or less giving one message and the officers asking for another?
Well, I'm not going to give my opinion on the law. The law is the law, and if that's what the government of the day says is the law, then we're going to abide by that. And you know what? Whatever tools we have to use to apprehend those that are choosing violence as a solution, we're going to apprehend to the best of our ability.
Chief, do you think that there's a gang war happening in the northeast end of the city?
You know, I don't want to quite call it a gang war, but what I will say that, as I stated earlier, there is noticeably more gunplay that's going on. And as a result of that, we were putting resources in that area, and we're doing some very effective work there.
So you said that I know Michelle Lynch asked about this, but can you give us any indication of why it's up again? If you are putting resources in the community?
No, I'm not saying that it's up again. I'm saying that as a result of this homicide, I'm here because I'm making the appeal because I'm hoping that somebody who has information, and there's no doubt someone does have the information, and they might be just sitting on their hands not giving it because they think that they're afraid or because they don't think that their information has any value. And I'm here to say it does have value, and we want that information. So we're hoping we're going to continue to be canvassing and to be in the neighborhoods, and we hope that there are opportunities for us to solve this particular crime.
Was the intended target, who was the individual that was in that vehicle, is that person cooperating with you?
I don't know who the intended target was. I know that the car was definitely shot at, but I don't know who the intended target was. One more question?
It's been kind of off back and forth. Can we say declaratively that it wasn't Bob? Or is it that we're saying the car was targeted, we don't know who the target was?
The absolute most accurate answer to that question is that car was targeted.
But we don't know that Bob wasn't.
I've given the answer.
Who was the owner
Thank
of
you
that
very
car?
much.
Who was the owner of that car,
Chief
Chief?
Saunders, can you comment on one